How's everybody doing? Welcome to another episode of Thirsty Smurfing Thursday. Dun, 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 dun. Hope everybody's doing good. Thank you so much for tuning in. I did the turkey for today. That's all I'm going to say. I had to sneak it in somewhere, even though it wasn't very fitting. You know what? Sometimes you got to throw in a turkey. I hope everybody caught Burn and Return last week. I gotta say, Burn and Return last week was a lot of fun. These last few weeks have been a lot of fun. They've been actually very informative, very helpful. The amount of feedback I've been getting from guys in the industry has been incredibly positive. And I just want to thank everybody for the support with that. We have a lot of fun doing it, and we invest a lot of time into that to make sure that the information we're presenting is applicable to the lawn care guys out there. And so I apologize to the homeowners and the DIY things, DIY guys, because it's not necessarily catered to you, but by so happenstance it does get passed down. So if you don't know what we're talking about, it's our podcast that we call Burn and Return. You can find it on any of your favorite podcast apps: Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, or whatever it's called, Google Podcasts. It's on all of them. Check it out. Give it a listen. Throw your headphones in while you're at work and enjoy it. It's a good time. Now we're going to kick the show off because we have, number one, our guest tonight is a pro applicator, and that's always exciting for me. Like I've said before in the past, like when we had Ben Sims on, I called it a fraternity, and you know what? It feels like it, right? Because when we were all cutting our teeth in this, for the most part, it was all kind of a guy thing anyway, right? It was it just a lot of locker room talk. And that's why, if you look at the two co-hosts we have on, we've got Mr. Brian DeBay and Mr. Ray Ito. I think anybody who has any kind of education in agriculture or turfgrass science went to school with a Ryan DeMay and went to school with a Ray Ito. And I'm just going to leave that.
I don't even know what that means.
You do. You know exactly what that means. But we can speculate about it, or we can continue on here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on with me tonight. I truly appreciate it.
Damn glad to be here, Matt. If anybody's wondering, I'm coming from you from a undisclosed location, my hotel room. Got some business to attend to tomorrow. I'm in Michigan. All right. Got some business to attend to tomorrow. I'm in enemy territory right now. It feels weird, but I'm going to get through this. All right.
He's in the Marriott at 3347.
Oh.
Hey, listen, if you're not careful, I'm going to get a knock at the door for some DoorDash and people thinking I'm deaf. All right. You know what that feels like. Now, Ray, how are things in Hawaii?
Well, kicking butt. What else can I say? Kicking butt.
I love it. I love it.
And
yeah, that is good.
And by the way, this morning I was taking care of, get this one, a landscape weed control job that did not involve glyphosate.
You were asked to do that?
Is that possible?
But this is one of those, I call it heaven help us type of a deals, because this was a sulfentrazone, Sureguard, and Dicot kind of a thing.
Well, Ray also just had a visit from the FedEx man, and there were no before I say anything on air, Jesse Bousquet, can I put you on retainer, and then we'll talk about that on air. Gentlemen, we have an extra special guest tonight. We have Turfology. Sir, welcome to Thirsty Thursday.
How we doing, guys? Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I know there's one thing I know. Let me phrase it that way. I was speaking backwards, but you follow me where I'm going with this. I know. I have experienced how thirsty you get on Thursday.
One time.
That's right.
Man.
That's
I knew that was
right.
going to be the first thing that came up.
Oh, yeah.
Listen. So we just had our first baby. That was my first time out of the house and like on my own since she was
Congratulations.
born. And,
Congratulations.
starting to drink Macallan at 2 in the afternoon kind of gets you in trouble by, 10, 11 o'clock. So
Hey,
can't,
look, there was
can't
no
hang
trouble.
like I used to.
There was no trouble that night. Everybody had fun. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about the live Thirsty Thursday we did in at the Goodwood Brewery in Louisville, Kentucky. And if you missed it, I apologize, but it was a great time. And we got to do a pre-show together in downtown Louisville at on 5th Street. You know, that was we ran into each other on accident over there. And it was funny. I walked in and he was clearly drinking. And I had told myself when I walked in, I was like, I'm going to wait till tonight. I'm not going to have a drink. And my wife goes to the bar and she comes back with one of these truly alternatives, but it's a 2x4. It's a giant 24-ounce can. And it was like frosty cold. I was like, boys, I need one of those. Like, it's not a question of me wanting one. I need that. And I was so hungover because the night before, obviously, was when I experienced complete and total debauchery. And I was like, I'm going to go get one of those giant cans of Feel Better. And so I did. I did go get one. And that kickstarted our adventure from there to Goodwood Brewery to Taj and beyond in the memories of a lifetime. How about that?
Yeah, Matt, that was an excellent night because I believe that was the night where we decided let's leave Taj at a civilized hour and let's do something special. And that turned out to be an excellent thing because as it turned out, that was the one night where we were all in bed at a civilized hour or more civilized hour than some others.
Yeah, I was going to say,
that was still
wasn't.
That was a good time. That was a good time. And you know how you say, Matt, you don't trust non-drinkers?
Yes.
Okay.
There are some caveats to that. That's not a blanket thing.
That's
for
not a
people
blanket.
that have
That's not a blanket.
drinking problems or religious exemptions, no problem. You get a pass.
However, what I can tell you is I'm not a daily alcoholic. I do make exceptions for very special occasions. Other than that, yeah, because anybody that can drink 113 proof stuff or 140 proof stuff and not cough, they know what they're doing.
That's right. That's right.
They know what the hell they're doing.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. All right, dude. Talk to us about your business. Give us the jump start, right? Talk to us about how you got into the industry, what prompted you to go into business for yourself, and how did you get to where you are now with Turfology? Kind of break it down for us.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just a business partner and I, Tanner. He's supposed to be here tonight, but he's a little under the weather. So it's our first year. Kind of getting into how we got into it. I started working for a hardscape landscape company. I was out in the field, kind of worked my way up into a foreman, hurt my back real bad, and then they kind of threw me into the office on the sales part of the lawn care side. At that point, I mean, hell, I didn't even know what aeration was or fertilizer or anything. I didn't have a clue. But just kind of taught myself watching YouTube videos, reading up, went and got our licenses and had a chance to take over the company. He was going to go, focus on the owner of the old company that I worked for. He wanted to put his focus back on the hardscape side. So we kind of came to a mutual agreement that it would be best if I just kind of bought him out and took over that side. And here we are. So successful first year. And that's about the story. So
pretty good story.
Like
I mean,
it is
the American dream right there.
that's
came from nothing,
pretty
laying bricks, and now this guy, pro applicator.
So
tough part of the country.
I've done a little bit of hardscaping. I'm definitely not an expert at it at all, and I want to make that extremely clear. What I guess give me a rundown on the scopes of projects that y'all do. Were y'all like giant, pool installs and all that shit?
Giant. I'm talking like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 jobs. All these just giant, elaborate outdoor living spaces, outdoor kitchens with the pergolas, the pool, waterfalls. I mean, the whole nine. Like whatever you can dream up. Like we used to put it in. It was wild.
Meow.
Listen, some of the stuff that people pay for just blows my mind.
Yeah, I'm speaking from my own pocketbook here, which is it's so light. It has negative weight. It has anti-gravity. Okay. But what I want to know is like if you're signing up for one of these projects, do you go to the bank and get a loan for that, or are you just chilling on $300,000-$500,000 in cash?
Some of those people did. Some of those people would write a check like in full, like no problem, $300K. Like here you go. Like just let me know when it's done. So
and they just hand it to you like it's no big deal. Oh, you did a great job. Here's your check for $333,000.
Those are my clients.
Yeah, it was nuts.
My clients are like, $65? $65? I can't believe you. This is robbery, you asshole.
Or they invite you in to, pay you and give you a little just the tip.
Yeah.
It was one time. It was one time.
Oh, you want a check for $65? I got a favor from you, asshole. Watch this. That's some inside baseball right there. Should I tell the story on air? Have I told it on air?
I don't know if you have. Go ahead. I think the statute.
I think you have to. You have told it on air. You have told people on air
told it on Burn
about
and Return.
Burn and Return. Yeah, you told us about why being called Lawn Boy just triggers you to no end, and I get it because Matt, I actually had a similar experience.
Oh, you opened the door and someone was naked?
No.
Oh.
I had to judo flip an ex-Navy guy.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Because all right.
Here we go.
Let's just say that my limit is when this person starts like putting his hand toward me in a certain way. At that point, no, that's it. You're not putting your hand out to shake my hand. You're putting your hand out to do something else, and that's not happening. No, thank you.
I'm only going to come in on the left side right now and just give a play-by-play. The man extends his hand towards Ray. Ray puts his hand under the man's armpit and judo tosses him into the yard. Ray places his foot against Navy man's throat. Ray releases when man taps his leg. Altercation. Okay, we're back in both channels. I am in a weird mood, gentlemen. I apologize.
So all we're saying here is, hopefully you don't have any bad collection stories like that to share with us next year when you come on the show.
No, it's a rite of passage, and yes, something strange will happen. You'll get Sheila that says, "Oh my God, when you cut, I need you here before 10 in the morning because my husband's shift ends at 12. So if you could get here before 10, then just go ahead and get the yard done, or the backyard, or the bushes before then." I'll have margaritas waiting on you. All right, ma'am, it's 9 in the morning. I'm not sure I need a margarita waiting for me. Oh, you got okay. It happens. Am I the only one that this crazy stuff happens? Listen, now I'll say this:
no,
the dude answering the door naked was at Fairway Lawns, but I feel like, well, this is probably because we just had more techs on the road. But when I worked at True Green, the number of crazy stories that came in at the end of the day, like it was almost it would not seem real to anybody else if everybody wasn't talking about it, right? Like for instance, when the guy, stole the truck while old boy was spraying in a backyard, and when the guy drove off with the truck, he's got his hose around his shoulder, which you're not supposed to do, but everybody sprays with their hose around their shoulder. And so when guy started to drive off, it yanked him around and ripped the hose off. And so he's got herbicide mixture at 160 PSI shooting while whoever stole the truck is driving down the road, sending out the bat signal that this is a stolen truck, right? And of course, it gets caught, but anyway. I guess this is the True Green experience.
We're really trying to talk him out of continuing to be in business.
No, it keeps it interesting. Let's be real here.
I could use some excitement every once in a while. So
yeah. You got a new kid at home. You gotta get out there and flex your wings a little. All right, where are you located? Where are you operating out of?
So we are in a town called Edwardsville. It's in Illinois, kind of right next to St. Louis, where we can see the arch from our backyard.
Are you a St. Louis native, born and raised?
No, so I'm up from a little tiny farm town up by Chicago called Piper City. I think there were about 400 people there. My graduating class in high school, I think, had 17 kids in it. So not big at all.
No, not big at all. That's
middle of a cornfield.
Yeah. It sounds like it. All right, so y'all got started. I guess talk to me about some successes you had this year, and talk to me about some hiccups you had this year. I don't want to say failures because it's difficult to learn from failures. Hiccups are easy to learn from and adjust. So we're calling them hiccups today.
Yeah. So I think one of our biggest. So color-wise this year, we were great. We had a little bit of issues with crabgrass kind of later in the season, so we decided to go out with one full load of prodiamine, and we didn't follow up with any dimension. We were just kind of trying to flex a little bit on everybody. Color-wise, it worked great. I mean, we blew everybody out of the water with the color. But then, come summertime, our crabgrass, we were burning through some quinclorac quite a bit. So that was one of our big ones. And then, but I mean, overall, it was a pretty good season. We had our game plans together and everything followed through. Weather cooperated with us, so it was good. Good first year.
So, did you apply prodiamine as a granular?
Yeah. So our FERT program is 100% granular, and then we are liquid on the weed control. So I've got the X-Mark lean to steer, ride-on spreader sprayer, and then Tanner, he has the Toro version of a Z spray, I guess, like the Junior 36.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's right. I forgot Toro bought Z spray.
So. Yep. Yeah. So and it's great. I mean, the machines are great.
So you did a 1 amp full rate application. All right. So I can remember a little bit of the research. DeMay, you may have to fill me in. You may remember. Was a 1 amp granular a little bit lower in? I think you're on mute, DeMay. Was it a little bit lower in efficacy than split app or full rate liquid?
Yeah, it wasn't statistically significant, but there was a difference there, at least on the trials. That I'm trying to remember even where that's from. I'll dig it up. It's on my bookmarks at home. But yeah, so that's the thing too. Coming into this year, salient topic right now, Ray, is are you going to be able to get prodiamine on FERT this coming year? And if you can't, then what's your pivot? Is it going to be dithiopyr or dimension on FERT? Is it going to be a sprayable product? Have you given any thought to that? Have you checked with your suppliers yet on where things are looking in terms of their ability to furnish you guys product?
Because by the way, I I gotta also alert you to the need to get even your non-fertilizer combo products lined up and in order. I'm talking about stuff like your prodiamine and your insecticides, because that's kind of like where I'm at now, where I'm trying to line up things like prodiamine, WDG, imidacloprid, wettable powder, whatever the staples are to, you know, my operations. So, because what's happening coming out of the chemical manufacturer of the world is not looking necessarily that good.
Yeah, we kind of prepped for that. So my whole we're working out of my garage right now. That's pretty much our warehouse and storage and all that good stuff. But we took early delivery. We're trying to take as big advantage as we can of, you know, all the EOPs that everybody's offering. So we took delivery of our prodiamine. We've got our dimension on order. We've got enough stuff for our round 4s. We're just waiting on kind of trying to figure out what we're going to do with our round 3, which is like a mix between our grub control. But with the armyworm issue that we had this year, we're kind of trying to figure out what we want to do with that, whether we're going to run a celiprin or we're going to do, you know, I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, we have everything on order and it's stored in my garage right now. So
I'm just getting excited. I'm just getting excited.
Yeah. Well, let's talk round 3 because I feel like round 3 is the most controversial application in cool season grasses, right? Because depending on where you are and what your growth probability is, right? Sometimes you want to back off your N rates. Other times you're still chooching full steam, and you know you can lay it home. So you're in a difficult spot because you know, I assume this is one of those things. I hear a lot of Midwestern areas needing to be preventative with grub controls, right?
Yes.
And that's foreign to me, because as you move south of Kentucky into Tennessee, if you didn't apply grub control, you know, you're gonna out of 1,000 yards, you're gonna have 10 that show signs of grub damage, right? Next to nothing. And so then, you know, you could be a little more lax with, you know, you upsell it or whatever. You know what I mean? You don't let it dictate the course of your program. However, up there, when you're facing that kind of pressure, it's a different kind of ball game. Now, before you start really diving into this, I want to say this, and you know, this is what we talked about when we were in Louisville. Because you had armyworms this year, is it necessary to pivot the entirety of your program towards armyworm prevention? Is it a one and done? Is it a once in 20 year experience? Is it 1 in 100 year experience? Is it necessary to hedge against it at all times, right? And I think this is a great debate. I told you that from my perspective, I probably would not plan on having armyworm pressure every year. But that's not to take away from the fact that I think a celiprin as a grub prevention product would be the superior product, but it comes down to, does it fit your budget, right? I'm curious to hear, DeMay, yours and Ryan's take on this. Round 3, coming out of the arguably the worst year of armyworms ever experienced in Midwest and North. Is this something you adjust your program for to make sure you never have to deal with armyworm invasions ever again?
You're asking me? You're asking Ryan?
I'm asking both of you. DeMay, do I look like I'm laughing? Listen, I'll come in your. I'll come in. I'm gonna wig out Jay Pink because he's gonna get paranoid about this. All right,
listen, I'm at the Ramada room 214, and I've got the heart-shaped hot tub heating up for you right now. A bottle of the cheapest champagne I could find at CVS sitting there chilling. Right?
My man.
All right. So all right. So let's talk about round 3 grub control. And when is round 3 growing out for you down there in the St. Louis area?
So it's kind of temperature dependent, but usually like late May, early June, somewhere around there.
Late May, early June. Okay. So this is an easy answer then. So a couple of things. First, let's talk about price. Right. So imidacloprid, which is going to have supply issues, that's there, no question about it. Ray's right that trying to find it on FERT might be tough, and trying to find it in liquid form, especially post patent, the cheap stuff is going to be potentially problematic.
Rough.
So the earlier you can buy it. So this is not just for you, but everybody else that's going to listen to this now and for the foreseeable future and towards next spring would be the sooner you can get that, if that's what your product choice is going to be, the better. Obviously, it's going to be the lowest price point. It's going to be anywhere from $8 to $16, an acre, something like that. All right. So acelepryn, you mentioned acelepryn. If you're going to do that as a liquid, I'm not sure what the early order price is for next year. I want to say it's going to be like 142, 145, something like that, an acre, right? At the rate that you need to go to prevent both grubs and armyworms. Okay. The timing is a little suspect. If you're in that June timeframe, you're going to miss some of that grub activity. The thing with acelepryn, and I'll let Ray speak to this, is that it's extremely insoluble, right? And the reason that you have to put it out so soon is because it needs a long time, right, to solubilize and then get up into the plant. So not a bad choice, though. The diamides are, that's the class of insecticide that's in. Fantastic choice. It's going to be lights out on grubs, and it's going to do okay on armyworms as a preventative. It's going to do better than okay, probably, but this new product that's out, and this is why what I would be looking at, if you can spray it, and it only comes in a sprayable form right now. It's a product from Bayer called Tetrino, Tetrino. And Tetrino is also in that diamide class, right? And the things that are attractive about it is that, number one, it's got better activity on cutworms as a preventative and a curative, really, than what acelepryn has. So even though it's in the same class, it does a little bit better on those. Still does really, really good on grubs, just the same. And so it also has a little bit of activity on chinch bugs, more so than what acelepryn has, which is super low. Tetrino is just a touch higher. So you'd still have to use some contacts, right? Some pyrethroids if you're going to get into the chinch bugs, and if that's a problem on some of your lawns to deal with, but just something to consider. Now, price point wise, here is where you're at, is that for preventative on these, you're going to be $100 an acre to spray with Tetrino at the full rate, which is 16 fluid ounces to the acre, I believe. No, that's 32 fluid ounces to the acre. 16 is the lower rate. So it's $50 an acre at the 16 ounce rate. It's $100 an acre at the 32 ounce rate. And the nice thing about it is that even though it's a diamide, even though it's the same class as what acelepryn is, it's actually a little bit more soluble. So the timing lines up better with, if you're really comfortable with that, late May, early June timing that you would normally do imidacloprid during, it's the same exact timing, even though it's in that diamide class. So I think guys are going to switch to this, Matt, because of a few things. One, why wouldn't you hedge? Number one. Two, it's a great upsell. I mean, it's so easy to pull your phone out and be like, remember when this happened to your lawn? Guess what? It's not going to. It's going to cost you this much, but you don't want to see that ever again, do you? Neither do I. Here's how it's going to cost. Easiest upsell you'll ever sell. Guarantee it. Number one, that's number one. Number two is the cost, right? So we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 40% less than what acelepryn's going for right now. I think that's another, obviously, a good thing for any applicator, right? We want to use the lowest price product that we can. It's got the most efficacy. And then last thing is, you're picking up a few extra things. You're getting a little bit better on armyworms. You're getting a little tiny bit of activity on chinch bugs if that's a concern for you, but you're still going to have to use your contacts there again. So it's a better all-around herbicide for the money. So that would be what I would look at doing. I wouldn't be afraid to spray it, especially for the price. And like I said, I don't think you're going to find an easier upsell. But Ray, what are you hearing about Tetrino? What are your thoughts on the diamides versus the neonics?
Okay, what I'm hearing about the anthranilic diamides, other than in Hawaii, is they're becoming the favored product because they are a lot less intrusive as far as bees are concerned. Number one. Number two is their greatly improved spectrum of control regarding things like armyworm, chinch bug, and cutworm. However, speaking to Ryan's point, they are less soluble in the soil matrix versus, say, imidacloprid or my favorite, clothianidin. So the deal with these is that they are better put out early. However, here's where it also doesn't matter as much. They are active and effective on insects at extremely low rates. So that little bit of material that solubilizes and moves down into the root zone, that's enough to go night-night on the grubs. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, both tetrino and acelepryn are labeled for curative control of both grub and armyworm. Because all it takes is a little bit of material out there, and in actual practice, ideal situation is if you spray one of those and then it gets watered in soon after. That's ideal situation. Whereas the issue with neonicotinoids, especially imidacloprid, is actually not very UV stable, Ryan. So in other words, if you don't get your Merit 75 WP application sprayed and then watered in within, I want to say, 24 hours, you just threw your money away, because the sunlight starts to rapidly break down that application as soon as you put it out. So that's a case of, if I want to do Merit 75 WP, I'm flipping on irrigation as I'm applying it. I don't wait.
Ray, can you talk real quick and explain to everyone the mode of action with the diamides and how it opens up that pathway for calcium ions to dissociate? Why it's safe for humans.
Okay. The thing about these newer insecticides like chlorantraniliprole, which is acelepryn, and tetraniliprole, which is tetrino, is that they act by dissociating calcium ions in the insect's exoskeleton. And last time I checked, I don't have an exoskeleton. Ryan doesn't have an exoskeleton. Birds don't have an exoskeleton. Fish don't have an exoskeleton.
Matt, wasn't there a guy in your fraternity that called his penis the exoskeleton?
Yeah, I thought you were talking about my scalp, to be honest. I call it the exoskeleton.
But the fact of the matter is that these newer insecticides, they act by dissociating and dissolving the calcium in the exoskeletons of insects. So say a grub hits a minute amount of acelepryn, in 2 to 3 days, that poor grub is a pile of goo. Same thing happens to an armyworm that happens to eat grass that was previously treated with acelepryn or tetrino. Is that poor caterpillar is going to be a pile of goo approximately 48 hours after it last ate that grass. And, speaking to the low solubility of these products, that is both a benefit and a detriment environmentally, because the reason why those products are not looked kindly upon here in Hawaii, for example, is here's a strike against a product: environmental persistence. So anything with a long soil half-life gets red flagged as a water pollutant automatically.
Let me throw this out as a potential curveball. Maybe not, but it's a talking point at least. I'm looking at his average precipitation, 40 inches a year. That's a fair amount of rain in a year. Does that buy a little bit added insurance, especially considering his peak rain season is going to be from May through August? Does that buy a little insurance on a relatively insoluble compound that may be a little bit slower to come on? You see what I'm saying? You smell what I'm stepping in?
Yeah. Matt, in a high rainfall area, I would actually prefer something like acelepryn over the more soluble diamides, specifically because they're less likely to move. I would probably prefer something like acelepryn.
Okay, what about with imidacloprid? So, the big caveat with imidacloprid is how quickly can you get it watered in, right?
But then here's the flip side. Here's the flip, Matt, to answer your question before you ask it. I've seen imidacloprid get flushed out and end up in the shit can if it rains too much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
because
same.
I've done jobs where I've given shrubs and trees shots of imidacloprid into the root system, and I get a call back from the customer saying, I thought this application was supposed to hold me for a year. I got mealybugs and scale insects on the trees and shrubs again. What's up? And then I go back to how a month or two late after I made the application, I had one of my epic Hawaii rainstorms of, 10 inches of water in 48 hours. There went my merit. Aloha.
Now, and this is, I think, a compounding issue here, at least that makes the decision process more complex, are indeed the economics of it, especially this early into business, right? Because you can take a more budget-friendly approach with imidacloprid, with the understanding that you're going to have some breakthrough. And in the event you do have breakthrough, what is your cost on that? Versus what is your cost if you go with a superior product where you're not going to have as much breakthrough, but it's going to be more painful to the wallet, right? So really, whichever way you go, there's a pain point. It's, trying to quantify what that pain point is. Is one going to be a better ROI or the other? Because what if it's a season where, your pain point is you have 2 yards that get infested with grubs. You got to seed those. They're good. It moves along. You're out a bag and a half of seed, whatever, $150, $200 or whatever, plus time. Or, you run something like a acelepryn over the course of your round, it's going to cost you, $4,000 or $5,000 more dollars. Is it worth it to preserve the 2 lawns? But here's the thing. What if you have a bad season and it's not 2 lawns that fail with imidacloprid and it's 20 or it's 30, right? Now, all of a sudden, you're having to seed 20 or 30 yards for a guarantee or whatever it is you have out there. And, versus, spending that $4,000 or $5,000 on the front end on a acelepryn, now you're having to spend $7,000 or $8,000 on seed on the back end, right? Plus an additional week and a half of production you're having to dedicate to it. So it's in my opinion, it's a very, very complex piece of business strategy you have to employ there. And I don't think there's really a right or wrong or answer. It's just, having a strategy and a game plan for if what you are working to do doesn't work out as planned, right?
Matt,
those are that's complex economics there.
Okay, I need to add another economic factor to this, if I may.
Yeah.
As a new guy on the block, because I was there as a new guy on the block back in 2007. And what my big anxiety point was whatever applications I sell, promote, or whatever, they had better freaking work and totally work. No excuses, no explanations, because otherwise I would become known as the town asshole for all the wrong reasons, because I'm selling people something that doesn't work. And even if I were to cover the cost of repairing the damage, for example, that still sows seeds of doubt in people's minds. They're thinking, this guy gave me a treatment program for the lawn and it didn't work. So why am I paying the money?
What were you going to say, Michael?
Well, I was going to ask about like the residual activity on like the tetrino and the acelepryn. So now we're not going to run like a granular like mixed with fert of acelepryn. Like number one, you can't afford it this year because hell, it's like $40 a bag right now. The first issue I see is we're running low volume, less than a half of a gallon per 1,000 square feet, which, if I remember correctly, you need about a gallon for acelepryn for it to be effective. Am I wrong or not?
I've pushed it. I've sprayed it at a
Okay.
per 1,000.
Okay.
No problems here.
Here's my thought on it. Provided you're using something like acelepryn or tetrino, no biggie, because I know that egg crops, for example, get sprayed with Coragen. And you guys know what Coragen is? Coragen is ag labeled chlorantraniliprole. So they go out at like 10, 15 gallon of finished spray per acre. It kills the armyworm and whatever else just as dead at that spray volume. But provided you can tell me that after you put down that application, I don't care what volume it's at, provided you can tell me that it rains within the next week or two, I have no issues or concerns. Because
that makes me feel better.
The fact is that, again, environmental stability on something like acelepryn is superior versus imidacloprid. My problem with imidacloprid is if it gets a week worth of sun without being watered in, it's almost gone. If your sprayed application of acelepryn gets a week worth of sun before it rains, that just means that it's going to delay a week longer before it starts going to work. It's not a crisis, not an issue. It's no big deal. So, if you're looking at insect controls, to me, on several viewpoints, I feel that acelepryn is your better value for money overall for many reasons. I mean, if I were faced with a combination of grubs and armyworm later in the summer, my June application would definitely involve acelepryn. No questions asked.
Is that still going to be? Is that still going to be active? Like, so we didn't really see a whole lot of armyworm pressure until like end of August, early September.
Here's the caveat. Okay, so acelepryn. This is a super nuanced topic, and and if there's anything like that we say that doesn't make sense, please stop us and say you need to shut the fuck up and let us. No, but seriously. So, okay. So here's the rub.
Hey,
rub
real
of the
quick,
whole thing.
DeMay, shout out to Sean Smith.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Are you shouting out the shout out?
Yeah.
Crypto mines. All right, now, so okay, where was it? Okay, okay. The Aceleprint thing. So you can go later, like you can go in that June timeframe, but you're going to lose some efficacy on grubs because you're too late. In fact, it's not that you're too early; you're too late. But you're going to pick up better efficacy on your Aceleprint app. I will share a picture here. I'll show you this real quick. While we're talking here, though, so on the Tetrino, that is why like this is going to be an interesting product. And I'm not showing for them. I'm just saying like everything sort of lines up from a lawn care and a round 3 perspective to this product because of the price point and because of the timing of it, because it's much more forgiving in the sense that you put it down in that typical imidacloprid window of, again, like, maybe Mother's Day at the soonest, maybe July 1st at the very latest. And in your case, probably like Father's Day. You get it down in that window and you're hitting both grub activity perfect and you're hitting armyworm activity perfectly, right? The other thing to consider here too on the more expensive products, and this is like the untalked about thing, especially on insect control, is your callbacks should be damn near zero, right? Unless there's some kind of misapplication or something like that. There's no dialogues going out. There's not you paying for something out of your pocket to go back and fix something that you could have easily made in one app while you were already there to do something else and knocked it right out of the park. Okay, so can you quantify that? Yeah, sure you can. And when you're a smaller outfit, you're just getting started, like those are the things that kill you, right? A callback is not just worth your time and your effort. You're taking something away. It's it's duplicitous, right? It's doubled the amount that you're putting out because that's one app that you're not doing, plus you're paying for the app that you're doing out of your own pocket. So those are things to think about when you're looking at these products and considering. So I would look strongly at the Tetrino stuff. I would talk to the Bear guys and see where you're at. Because again, from the price point, I know Aceleprint is a fine product. I've used it for years. Have zero issues with it. I will share with you. Bear with me. So this picture is from Tetrino, or it's not Tetrino, but excuse me, an Aceleprint treatment that we did on a property that was, we went right up to this edge. Why can I not get it? I'll get it here in a minute. Well, while we're talking about it, I'll just give you a little bit of context while we throw it up. Treated early, so treated like mid to late April, which is a timing that I feel confident for grubs on Aceleprint. Now, not knowing that the armyworm invasion of our entire lifetime was about to come through, and you'll see what happened around Labor Day weekend, where the Aceleprint just wasn't there to pick it up. Like, we were screwed. So I'll show you this: the treated versus untreated. But I don't know. I mean, gentlemen, you have any more thoughts on that in terms of, I guess, Michael, from your perspective, tactically, like, you're probably not going to change the timing too much. What is your ability, do you think, to sell your customer base and say, listen, we got rocked with armyworms this last year. I don't want this to be a problem in your future. Therefore, the program is going up X number of dollars to make sure that that is not a problem. It is lights out. It's foolproof. And I mean, you guarantee it. You can put your guarantee behind it. And I think you'll even get, I know, Ray, help me out here. I think they'll give you, I think if you buy early order or you buy Syngenta Aceleprint, they'll give you extra Aceleprint if you have breakthrough on something like that.
Yeah.
Or if you have grubs, they'll give you Meridian. They'll give you Meridian.
Yeah. They'll give you Meridian. And I know Bayer covers their preventatives where if you have a problem, you can get Dialox from Bayer to cover it. But then, speaking to that, even if it's covered cost-wise, what to me is priceless is the goodwill gained by applications that just totally work. And in thinking about this question that we're all asking, are armyworms going to become a recurrent problem? And you know what my thought is? Maybe it will. Maybe. And the reason why I say maybe is because we are entering a phase in our weather or climate where parts of the U.S. that are normally not as warm and wet in the summer are getting that way. Conversely, it's not all roses and Remy Martin for me either, because balmy Hawaii is becoming cold and windy. So I don't call it global warming. I hate that phrase. I call it a cyclical climate change where it's going to be like this for a while and then it's going to flip the opposite way around.
So we've kicked around the idea, and we're kind of trying to go at this in two different directions. And I don't want to beat the armyworm topic to death tonight, but so in order for us to get the grubs and make sure, because those are an issue here, always have been. We have thought about just everybody gets it, no matter what program you have with us. You get grub control no matter what. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we thought about adding in like a right there. It's not. Because I just don't want that issue. But for the armyworm stuff later on, we thought about giving that as like a standalone application and going out with the Celiprin, sometime around early July, mid-July. That way we're sure if we're going to have an issue with this, which again is we don't know. But mainly for the people's yards who just got absolutely ravaged last year, like I don't see why they wouldn't do it as a preventative. So it kind of goes both ways, because I don't want our program to be so crazy expensive that everybody's just like, well, I can't afford that, so forget about you. So
by the way,
a lot going into our thought process.
Okay.
All right.
Curative.
One more idea on that.
Curative application. Curative application for just armyworm and cutworm using Acelyprin. I believe the use rate is as low as I think 4 or 6 ounces. It's not 4.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, or to me, that is a relatively cheap application. That's cheap. The only thing that's cheaper is what we talked about at Guy Fieri's in Louisville that didn't work, and that would be off patent bifenthrin. I mean, I just don't want to even entertain that because I've seen, and in fact, I have a resident population of pyrethroid resistant armyworm and sod webworm right here. I got them.
So I would say that the concern there of being foolproof is if you offer that as bifenthrin as a pyrethroid, you do run the risk that they are resistant. You have resistant populations, and then you don't get them, and all that kind of stuff. It's super cheap to do, but it's also short-lived. So if you have a second generation, a third generation, you're also kicking yourself in the pants too, because you're going to have to go out and make multiple applications. That's where guys not necessarily lost their ass this year, but got so far behind on finishing round 4, starting round 5, that like they were smoked. So the other thing to consider there, again, Tetrino, you're going to be $70-ish an acre on the 4-ounce rate for Acelyprin, and you're going to be $50 an acre on the 16-ounce rate for Tetrino, which you can go out at that same time. You can go out at that Labor Day timing, throw it in there with your round 5s to get started with, and it's going to take you all the way through the end of the season. So, again, at that rate, at that timing, there's a bunch of different ways to sell it. I think it's the couple things I would think about is like, if you know that you had areas that you had high populations this past year, routes or something like that, or neighborhoods, towns, whatever, the smallest that you can drill it down to that makes sense within your business model, then do that, and then go after those customers first and see who can convert. Those are going to be the customers that have the most pain, right? It's going to be tangible for them. It's not like, oh, hey, I saw a news story about that and it was really bad. It's going to be like, no, my lawn was completely fucked and I don't want that to happen again. You can put that in the marketing copy too. It'll really sell it. Completely fucked with a big no sign around it.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of that fescue did not come back. at all. Like yards were just dead. And I heard that, you know, they don't eat the crown or whatever it may be, but I mean, shit, they didn't touch. Yeah, no. We got steered in the wrong direction when all this stuff kicked off, because we had been told that, yeah, just go out with some cross check, a little bit of bifenthrin, you'll be fine. And that was not the case, like at all, because we'd never seen them. I mean, that was new to us. So we're like, yeah, sure, sounds good. No,
Yeah.
J-Pink, throw that photo up real quick. Throw it up, J-Pink. No, not that one.
J-Pink. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
All right, so this was a different photo.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have the one I thought I did. This is late sprayed. So for us here, that would be like Memorial Day-ish, a Celiprin. A little bit later than I would like, but untreated on the top of the hill there, treated down below. So absolutely wonderful activity on armyworms. And we had some, and I can't find the pictures of the early stuff where we sprayed it, but it got just completely demolished, even though we had a Celiprin on there. But it was too early, you know. So we were probably mid-April on something like that, before Easter even. So again, the timing plays a critical role here. So, you know, in summary on this topic, at least for me, it would be, my first look would be, if you're going to spray it, I would use Tetrino because of the price point, because of where it fits in on your schedule, your existing schedule already in terms of workflow. And then lastly, that it's going to do a good job on both grubs and armyworms at the time that you put it out. The fallback position would be the half rate, the 16 fluid ounce rate of Tetrino going out at, you know, at the beginning of round 5, or if it's a separate application, wherever it fits for you, at $50 an acre, and you sell that. So, you know, you have a complete, you know, a total insect control program. I won't even call it a grub control program. I would call it total insect control, and list armyworms on there, and list grubs, and list, you know, chinch bugs, because you can throw in a couple of, you know, pyrethroid apps in there if you need to pick those up. But the other one would be straight up, hey, this is just armyworm control. If you just are worried about armyworms, we have this price point for you too. So, you know, I know it's tough to split it up or whatever and do it like that sometimes, but I would start with one, and then if you have to fall back to somebody, you know, try it like that. What's your all thoughts?
I like it.
I love it.
Look at that. Matt's going to sign up for my lawn care program.
That was good. I will. What if we just find a way to, like, infect my turf grass with, you know, like some, like that, what is that, the NPV, that virus that kills caterpillars, nuclear polyhedrosis virus. Can we do that? Can we, like, infect my turf grass with that everywhere and just wipe out the whole population?
You know what's the problem? You know what the problem is with that NPV is that NPV is not particularly environmentally persistent, because you know what? We need to get the fellas at Wuhan working on this.
Oh God!
Oh yeah. I mean,
Ray.
Need some
Careful, Ray.
Hey, listen. He's on the list. He's on the list.
Yeah.
Everybody's touchy after Peter McCullough on Rogan, you know.
Yeah. But then, because here's the thing is that the other thing about these so-called biological controls is that, what if I told you that insects can even develop resistance to the biological controls? Because do you know what a big issue is with the vegetable growing, industry? Bacillus thuringiensis resistant caterpillars. That's a big issue. And the emergent issue is all of the seed companies also engineered corn, cotton, and soybean containing that Bacillus thuringiensis trait. And so that trait is also starting to falter and not work as well. And I don't know what would have to happen, because what is happening then is it's a game of brinkmanship where the manufacturers are having to come up with even more toxic mutations of BT in order to stay ahead of the game as far as the insect pests are concerned. So I'd kind of be careful or mindful of thinking that something biological is guaranteed. I mean, because in nature, no matter what, I always think that Mother Nature finds a way to assure survival.
Well, I think I feel like we've given a significant number of options for round 3 here, and in some programmatic approaches. Let's move on to round 4 because this is arguably another tricky application, right? So, we're talking St. Louis area. We're getting hot, right? So our average high temperatures as we start moving into July and August are 90, 91 degrees. Our average highs. Our average precipitation is still relatively high here too, right? So, for roughly 4.5 inches a month of rain over these couple of months here. So it's hot. A lot of potential for rainfall. This is tricky. This is tricky because even in the event, right? So we're talking about choosing the right kind of product right here because I think everybody would agree that we still need a little bit of N during this time frame. I know our growth probability is going to have reduced pretty significantly. It's wanting to check out. Everything out of NC State says we still want a little bit of N, right? Somewhere quarter pound, something like that. How are we going to deliver that? Are we going to do it in a purely soluble source? Are we going to do it through slow release mechanisms? Are we thinking methylene urea with high potential for mineralization rates, or it's something organic in lieu of methylene urea to try and save some bones and also run into high mineralization potential? What are we looking like if we've got to cover 6 to 8 weeks in this, what I would consider a death period?
So we ran, mix it up with some biosolids, 15-3-7, about a quarter pound of nitrogen. Worked out really well for us. Held color for quite a while because we were a little late getting started on our round 5 because of the armyworm issue. So I mean, we got about 8 weeks of color out of that 15-3-7.
Not a bad choice, and that's probably a very affordable fertilizer too. This year maybe a little bit tough. Availability of biosolids is kind of up in the air right now. So we've got that option there. Gentlemen, if you had to pivot away from biosolids as being your dominant slow release in source there, because that's chances are high likely that we may run into that this year. You have to go with a conventional fertilizer to give you that sustained release. What are you looking for? Are you doing a duration 45? Are you doing an XCU? Are you doing a duration 90? A polyon? What's it look like?
I'm methylene urea all day, dog. You know me.
Oh, there he goes.
Hey, it's not going to be cheap, but it's going to get you through. It's going to do what it's supposed to do, and
it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Ryan, how do you feel about that combination mesurea and ammonium sulfate called Mesa? How do you feel about that product?
Hot sauce.
Fine choice.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to get him into that.
Yeah, because I've heard good things about Mesa-based microgranules, for example. My only pain point on that is what that stuff costs to me.
Oh yeah,
that's my only pain.
Cheap, and the other thing here too. Let's just say that Mesa is probably, I don't know, Matt. What do you think? Probably $32 a bag on its own, just N, something like that. Okay, let's just call it $32. So that's going to go down. That's the other thing too that gets a little bit tricky is even with your prill size, trying to hit. Let's see what that would be here. Real quick.
Yeah, so it comes. All right, so we're talking about Mesa, which is a Lebanon product. I believe.
Why don't you educate him on that? 3000.
Yeah, I think. And I'm trying to think who may distribute it in his area. I think you can get it through Site One, if I recall. Maybe not.
I think so. Our round one is Lebanon. So, and we're 99% Site One. So
there you go. So and basically what they do during the manufacturing process, they are granulating ammonium sulfate with methylene urea as like the binder of sorts, right? So you're holding the granule together with methylene urea. So that way, as the methylene urea, which is mostly insoluble, as that granule begins to break apart and slowly dissolve, you're also releasing little bits of ammonium sulfate as a quick release in source, while you've got the methylene urea that's breaking down over a longer, slower period of time, right? So, very interesting type of product to go for, right? Because you're getting that kind of an immediate color response, and that everybody knows and equates to ammonium sulfate, and then you've got that duration from the product as well because of the methylene urea. The difficult part in this scenario would be use rate, right? So say you're applying it at 1 to 2 pounds per thousand. If you're not buying a microprill, that can be difficult to spread, right? Because most of our spreaders are it's difficult to get down to one pound, right? 2 pounds in some instances, yeah, you can get it down, no problem, as long as it's pretty uniformly sized. Now, as a bit of an option, is that I know Lebanon has some cheaper blends, right, where it's not 100% Mesa. 100% Mesa would be 100% of the prills of that bag are made of that methylene urea ammonium sulfate homogeneous prill. Now they have like a 2505 that has a little bit of straight urea in it, the Mesa in it, and a little bit of potash in it. Are you, if you're getting that down at 2 pounds per thousand, now you're at a half pound in, roughly 50% of that is going to be quick. Are you okay with that? Are you, if you have a quarter pound of in release all at one time, are you going to be okay? Chances are, yeah, you're going to be okay. But just something to keep in mind. I don't think they do any lower analyses than the. Do they do any lower analyses than the 2505? I think that's as low as they go.
I'm looking right now. I think they do have one that was lower, or used to anyway.
They have a 2010 maybe?
Here. I think they do. And I'm going to. I know. I feel it. They do have a nice website. They do have a nice website. I'm looking here real quick.
There it is. I was waiting on the heartbeat.
I feel it. Mesa.
Okay, that is in my chest.
Ooh. So, 29010. Ooh, that's got that in it. And they got some nice stuff here. Yeah, this is beautiful. 25015, 24012. They do make a 20010.
Is the 20010 a
it's the Expo in 60% Mesa and then Expo.
Okay, so it does have Mesa in it. And Expo is a slow release potassium source, right? So they polymer coat the potassium to make it slowly available too. So it's all of these products are going to be premium products. And when you're moving into that time of year, nitrogen management is going to be a very difficult thing in general, right? Because you don't want too much nitrogen too fast because you're in a shitty time of year to be growing grass. And then so you can dump a lot of money into these more effective nitrogen management tools like Mesa or methylene urea. What'd you unpack?
Ooh, what did I unpack? Let me see here. It's pulling the label up. It is a new blend. It's got the new sticker, but they're calling it their E blend. Oh, come on.
E for everyone.
This is what you get for a Walmart laptop that you're going to take back tomorrow, you know? So it's a 16-2-3.
Oh, it's screaming green.
60% Mesa, 50% Biosolid, which makes no sense.
It is screaming green. Okay. That actually wouldn't be a bad product either to go out with at that time frame. And it's not to take away from what you're currently doing, right? I'm just throwing some alternatives out there in the event you can't get that product. Now, Lebanon's supply of biosolids, I have no idea where it comes from. A lot of places I feel like I have a pretty good idea of where they're getting it from. I have no idea where Lebanon's are coming from. Are they going to be flush with it this year? I don't know. Could be, could not be. Is Site One going to be flush with biosolids this year? Could be, could not be. Just proposing some different options out here for you if you run into that kind of scenario. But that product you ran, I'm on board with it. I think that's sufficient with what you're looking to do, and it makes sense given the time of year. Seeding.
Cool.
Do you seed all your properties?
So that is on we let the kind of customers decide if we think we need it, we'll push it a little bit, but it's not necessary all the time.
Good plan.
Good plan. I mean, very good plan.
I don't know. I think there is something to be said about like that honest, or it's not even so much honesty of just like, hey, I'm going to do what needs here for you. Like obviously the baseline program's got to be what it is, but like, some of these add-on services, I do think that people, I know that they do value being told, hey, like you're fine. Like you don't need, I've seen guys out there, people that are untrustworthy that are out there in like bluegrass lawns that are mowed at 3 inches that are, thicker than a baby mama at the club on a Friday night, and they're just out there blowing seed through it. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
why?
You're actually causing more harm than you are good right now. But hey, send it, bill it, get paid, right? And that's unfortunate. So talk to us about your seeding program then. And by the way, I forgot to ask this too, is approximately how many accounts and or like how much square footage or acreage do you guys treat in total right now?
So we are just under like the 200 account mark.
Okay, cool.
And acreage is kind of an anomaly for us because we have like a couple bigger properties. Like we've got a 10-acre HOA that we take care of. But we're probably running pretty close to like, I'd say 3-4 million square foot, somewhere around there.
Okay. Could be could be a custom blend. You always do that.
I don't even know how to go down that road. So you talk to us about that, Ryan. In the event you wanted to go source your own seed, how do you start that process? I've never done
seed.
That.
I was talking about fertilizer, but yeah, seed.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying if we get into that whole nitty gritty of end sources and things like that, seed. I mean, yeah, you could private label a lot of stuff. I mean, you could make your own private label stuff. That's what I've seen. I've seen this now, and I was actually talking with somebody who watches this show a few weeks ago about this, about like something about naming a seed after like a city or like an area or a region. So like if you said that you had St. Louis, Penn State mix, St. Louis's best seed. Like there's something about the marketing of that and the anchoring of that just, oh my God, I got to get some of St. Louis's best. I got to, you got the Edwardsville mix? Are you shitting me? You got the Edwardsville mix? Oh yeah, right here. It's right there. You want some of it too? Yep. I'll come over and do your lawn next. Like there's something about that, like that just catches and hooks people. So, maybe do something like that, play around with it. But no, custom blend seeding, everybody is now super weird about that because of cultivar availability and everything like that. So here's how you normally get talked out of it now is, ooh, hey, I could do that for you this year, but I don't know if I can guarantee that you're going to be able to do the same thing next year. And maybe that's problematic and that scares some people away. But what you can say back to that, the it's weird that you're having to deal with sales rep objections as the consumer or the customer, but that's the day and age we live in now. So you'd be prepared to come back with them and say, hey, listen, there's just like one or two cultivars that I really want to hang my hat on, and the other two, or three or whatever that are in here, we can sort of, play around with. It doesn't really matter. I just want these one or two in there. So if you do go down that road, just something to think about. If you,
sounds
what
like
I would
a bad
recommend,
idea, to be honest. Ignore I even brought it up because that sounds like a terrible idea.
No, here's where it's not a bad idea is, honestly, this is something I would do. If I had the space and a shop, I would definitely set up some small test plots of some different stuff, even if it's just like commercially available mixes that you can get. So you can test. One, you can use it in your marketing copy. Two, you can treat it and not treat it with your program and know what's working and what's not. And then conversely, too, what seed works best. So when you're going out there to make a purchasing decision and get ready to buy, hell, a truckload of seed, I don't know how much you're going to end up using, but you know which one you want to go with. It's not just the sales and marketing pitch of, hey man, we're top 10 in the NTEPs. Well, like there's about 30 different categories you could be the top 10 in. That doesn't mean anything. Where, let's look at the, the nuances here of what you're trying to sell me. So all things said is that, just like we talk about with products, of having some yards, some customers that understand that, hey, listen, I'm going to test some new stuff out here, play around with a few things. I'm going to do some knockout to cover up stuff and not treat it just to see what it looks like. Do the same thing at your shop in a controlled environment. It's worth it. It's about as real world conditions as you can get if you can get them, and then what's working, what's not working, and that is power in your business. That knowledge is power. It's not just guesswork anymore. It's not what the sales rep tells you, or it's not what makes you, get you the warm and fuzzies inside when you go buy it, and then you have no idea if it works. Right?
That's right. That's totally right. It's the knockout test plot, or what I call the test strip, that is just valuable to me. That is just so valuable because you know what else I'm assessing when I do test strips, Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
I even assess for issues like, for example, phytotoxicity or negative effects on growth. I'm not just looking at efficacy against the labeled pests. I'm
sure
also
Matt's
looking at the
most of his yard doing that in the last 2 years. The only pictures I get from Matt's yard is grass he's killed with something he's trying out in his yard.
Hey man, look at this. Can you believe how that died? Holy hell.
I killed. I went up there, boys. I killed her good.
I killed a 10-foot strip right in my front yard, and it looks awesome. Died in 17 days to the dirt.
Yikes!
There's probably some small child that rides past with their parents every day. I'm like, Mommy, isn't that the guy that takes care of grass for a living? Yeah, sweetie. Some people are good at their job, and some people are Matt Martin.
The lawn boy went off the deep end years ago.
Oh yeah. That's when you say, oh no, he didn't take care of lawns. He's just been crazy, since about 03, 04. Christian Brothers High.
That's right. What's up, brother Joel? How are you, sir?
All right, moving on.
Yeah. All right. And my guess, and you tell me if I'm wrong, and I want you to continue on with your questions here. But my guess is, and it is, I always ask, Ryan to describe this right, but lawns are pretty easy, from September through Memorial Day through the end of May, right? But it's Memorial Day through Labor Day that makes or breaks the Furt and Squirt Company. And so that was why I wanted so hard to kind of hammer on, round 3 and 4 that fall into that time frame. But hopefully we've presented some clear and present danger there. What questions do you have?
I mean, I have some here. So I had one for Ray. This kind of came from Tanner, asking about like landscape beds, specifically pre-emergent, post-emergent. We don't do a lot of them. Okay. but we started with Broadstar this year for the first time, and it was garbage. Like, it didn't work. We were coming back with glyphosate over the top. We didn't throw any SureGuard or anything in with that when we did it. So I guess what's going to be the best for that? Longest control.
Here's my longest control tank mix. If I need duration of control, I run a combination of Spectacle and the highest label rate of SureGuard. And here's why. Spectacle is my go-to for grassy weeds, like, say, Johnson grass coming from seed, crabgrass, goosegrass. And I understand you're in a cool season area, so very important. Make sure that Spectacle never leaves or runs out of that landscape bed, because your fescue is going to hate your guts if that Spectacle runs. Next is, of course, SureGuard. And the reason why I like SureGuard is because that has the longest and widest spectrum regarding broadleaf weeds emerging from seed. And it's also a product that bears very few restrictions regarding how you apply it, because there's a third one to this that I use, but that's also kind of on the EPA's naughty list right now, and that would be Ronstar. Yeah, right. I heard that. But Ronstar is labeled for landscape beds. However, here's the conditions you must abide by. If you apply Ronstar to a landscape bed, you, the applicator, must either leave clear instructions regarding it being watered in immediately after you apply, or you must personally water in that application. But that would be my go-to regarding pre-emergent applications. Is I would use SureGuard, I would use Spectacle, and here's another one that I use. I also utilize sulfentrazone. And here's why. In the ag world, sulfentrazone is actually a pre-emergent against nutsedge and broadleaf weeds. It's not just for rapid burn down of emerged nutsedge. In the ag world, it's definitely utilized as a pre-emergent in the crops.
So you use Broadstar, and you're saying you had bad luck with it.
So we had a crazy amount of breakthrough with Broadstar.
I think I can understand why. Because
Broadstar, for those playing along at home, is a variant of SureGuard. It's the Valent brand. It's flumioxazin.
Flumioxazin plus another pre-emergent added to it, I believe. Because here's my little rant of the day. I know a lot of granular pre-emergents that are labeled for landscape and nursery use. And you know what I hate about these pre-emergents? They all use the dinitroaniline herbicide trifluralin. And trifluralin is a herbicide that is extremely volatile and non-stable in sunlight. So what happens is that if you don't immediately water in your pre-emergent application, the stuff just evaporates. And here's one more thing about applying pre-emergent. I find that I have extreme trouble getting a uniform and adequate application of a granular pre-emergent in a landscape bed versus me using a ceramic disc core solid cone nozzle and just spraying around all of the landscape plants. Because, for example, I know something about using Broadstar. You must never let that granule touch your desired ornamental plants because it'll burn the fudge out of them. Because Broadstar is 0.25% flumioxazin. And flumioxazin is a fantastic contact herbicide. So, in order to make that application safe, I use the liquid SureGuard and I just make a very careful directed spray application around the ornamentals in question. And I don't have an efficacy issue because same is true with in previous years. You remember Ronstar G? Okay, that has that has an ornamental and landscape label too. But here's the problem with Ronstar G. If Ronstar G touches the leaf of a desirable ornamental, you can literally watch that burn a hole right through the leaf. Ronstar is caustic. So to get around that, for the longest time, my jam was Ronstar WSP. I love that product because I throw that 1 pound water soluble pack in my sprayer, and that's 5,000 square foot worth of pre-emergent right there.
Ronstar is very effective. You know, I don't know if you like applying it as a dry. I think Ronstar would be the only way to get down flumioxazin, but of course, you know, you can do the Ronstar G. I hate that about the flumioxazin in that type of scenario though, because I know a lot of people that had good success with it. So I wonder if part of it has to do with that formulation, using it on that dry granule carrier. I don't know. Just kind of an interesting,
because
interesting thing there.
I never heard of issues with my pre-emergence because I spray all mine, and even like my bear guy, he pulled me on the side and he told me, if I can handle spraying Ronstar rather than broadcasting it dry as a granule, that's a superior application in terms of efficacy of weed control. I think that the same happens with a granular pre, especially in the context of you got to try to get it spread out evenly over the soil surface, but at the same time, God help you if you broadcast it over the top of a desirable tree or shrub, because that tree or shrub will hate you.
I thought just used. I just watched a video that used only 41% glyphosate to do that. Was that not correct?
I've used lower and higher concentrations of glyphosate with success, by the way. But also, I have not had good success with freehand. I've used a lot of freehand before in the past. Was not impressed with it. You know, one of the big at the time when it came out, the big selling point versus Snapshot was that it prevented yellow nutsedge, right? And I, you know, and this is going back to my. I want to make this point, but I was very trusting of my dealers, right? And so when I heard it prevented nutsedge, I was thinking it prevented purple nutsedge, it prevented annual, it prevented yellow. You know, I just wasn't gonna have to deal with nutsedge anymore, and it does not touch purple nutsedge at all. I'm gonna say this, and I want to say it very gingerly.
You saying something gingerly?
And back to you talking about the experience you had with Crosscheck in particular. It's important as an applicator to get to the point where you no longer are sold a product, but you walk into the distributor and tell the distributor what you're going to buy without any influence over what their opinion is on what you buy. And because what happens is you get locked into that situation where you'll start to second guess it, right? Like, you know what? I want to go out with this. I've done my homework. I'm here. And they're like, well, look, I've also got this right here. It does the same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's like what was somebody told me the other day. The replay it wasn't the other day. This is many months ago. May have even been a year ago at this point. But they told me, Ray, what is the combination product of simazine, amazaquin, and prodiamine? I can never remember the name of the herbicide.
That's called the coastal herbicide.
Coastal.
Who is screwing around with that? Because if you know what you're doing with it, it's a good product.
I'll tell you somebody who loves it when we get done with this show. That sells it on his YouTube channel.
Well, here's how it was hawked to me. Was it replaces? It's a cheaper replacement to Spectacle, and that was the most asinine sales pitch I had ever heard. And I had multiple people coming to me about it. It is a 1-to-1 replacement for Spectacle, and it's not. Not in the slightest.
Not even. Yeah.
And you know why it's not?
But before you say that, though, here's the thing: how many guys has that sales rep or that counter guy told that to and been successful and got the sale?
Probably hundreds.
Yeah,
probably hundreds.
And it's not to take away Coastal from a product. If it were me, I would 100% roll my own if I felt the need to run that product. And I bring this up, and Coastal doesn't apply to you, Michael, and I apologize for even going down this wormhole, but I bring it up to just demonstrate that as applicators, especially, getting started, it was explained to me that, and God love him, I love John Huber to the end of the earth and back, but he described it as this is, it is a full contact sport, right? And in him saying that, the point is that you can get tossed around in different directions that you didn't intend going based on what's being told to you, right? And so anyway, I just bring that up to I guess if you can walk into your distributor with your plan in action, and maybe you can cross-reference that biome, see if there's anything silly that's hanging out there or whatever. But be careful of what's put on you, and if something is put on you, don't make an immediate decision on it. Put it through its vetting process before you rewrap your game plan for what they suggest. Don't make that decision at the counter, I guess. I have no idea why I even brought that up.
No, that's well said, because what a good position to be in is when I walk into Nutrien or Simplot, for example, and I see the mild dread. Okay,
if I was a distributor and Ray walked in, I'd be like, Ray, help yourself, including checking yourself out. I'm going to lunch. And Ray would go pick out, and he would very honestly go to the counter, ring up his order, pay for it, and leave. And that would be the end of it. And he would probably be happier than me standing over his shoulder and be like, come on down, Ray. Today we got bags of 2702 for $33.99.
Yeah. I would be, actually, the guys, they basically gave up on me. They gave up on me because I walk in, I say, hey, actually this was pre-COVID. Now I email them my order and I say, you guys got this, and this? You got it? Nope. Okay. Plan B, because speaking to what we keep on talking about on Burn and Return, I have all of these alternate plans lined up in case I don't have my primary product in stock. And what I'm looking for is similar efficacy, similar MOA, if I can, and knowing that and understanding that is real power when it comes time to order, because then you are not likely to get sold the shit that everybody else uses that also doesn't work. Okay, that's my that's my pet peeve, is the stuff that doesn't work, but then everybody's doing it, because like what we talked about on the pre-show regarding that pre-emergent that I was messing around with. The reason why I run Dicquat, sulfentrazone, and SureGuard as a directed spray around ornamentals is because it works. No questions asked. And I don't hear about weeds for the next 6 months at least.
What other questions do you have?
Well, I guess the only other one would be like what you guys, and I know Ray's going to have a come apart on this one, but like low volume. If we were to just say switch to an all liquid program, where would you feel comfortable with your nitrogen? Never? No?
Nope. Not at low volume.
Cool.
No, please don't.
Answers, yeah, that's what I thought. So
hell no.
Yeah.
Why? Why though? I mean, what's the thought behind that?
So mostly going to be like our granular availability this year with our mixed products. So we're already in talks of, like, Knox is one of the big distributors over here, and they already shut down all their production for like their insecticide fertilizer combos and whatnot. So we're just trying to plan ahead, I guess. Just worst case scenario, if we have to, I guess I'll just go buy another skid is what will have to happen.
Well, and so again, this is what I would say to that is, yeah, not a good idea to go all liquid. So again, like we've talked about on burn and return, and as Ray was just alluding to, is you are the chef in the kitchen, right? And you do not get to order your ingredients as you want them, right? This is now like one of those like Gordon Ramsay cooking competitions where they're going to show, hey, you got these 10 ingredients and you got to make a good dish out of this. And it might be stuff you've never used before. You might have to tailor your program a little bit based on that. So I would just, be having real serious talks with your suppliers and talk to competitors too, right? It's always good to know who else is out there and what else they have. And see what you can work with. And sometimes it might be, hey, I'm looking for something like this. Can you tell me what you have? Or, I'm already having conversations with people in different parts of the country that it is, just tell me what you have and we'll go from there, right? And so that's what I would say is just be ready to adapt. Like Ray said, have a plan B. The liquid thing, I don't know, guys. I mean, at low volume, I mean...
No. I mean,
maybe a tenth of a pound. Like, I mean,
no,
you're talking this little...
A tenth of a pound you could, if it's from straight fert, be careful. A tenth of a pound for methylene urea, no problem. You can get that done, right?
Here's my question. If you're trying to supply all the nitrogen needs of cool season turf grass, as a liquid, what do the rates look like as far as each liquid application? If you're trying to supply all the nitrogen requirements, because I know it's different.
15 to 24 ounces per 1,000, and so
every 3 to 5 weeks. I mean,
so that's going to be 5 to 8 gallons per acre. So if you've got a 12-gallon tank that covers an acre and 5 to 8 gallons of it is nitrogen, right? Then that's 50% concentration or more, 60-70% concentration, and
that sounds a bit bad.
Might as well get a side cover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing too, just real quick. The point I want to make is that also with a liquid only program, trying to cover 6 to 8 weeks is very difficult, even if you're using methylene urea, right? Because you're having to, if you're trying to apply, say, a half pound in, and you want it to last 6 weeks, you're going to be up there at 18, 21 ounces per 1,000 square feet with a methylene urea. And that is the only way you're going to get that true 6 to 8 weeks, unless if Umax in the appropriate settings could get you there in the appropriate settings, Uflex probably not going to get you there, even if you've got perfect conditions for it. But if you're having to contend also with a low volume scenario, Uflex and Umax are not going to provide you any protection from salting out the plant, right? So it gets kind of complicated if you're at a half pound to 3/4 of a pound in, and you're trying to do it from a soluble source like a Uflex or a Umax. Even though you may be able to get the duration, your application safety, even at higher volumes, now becomes a factor that you have to take into consideration.
Here's the only. Go ahead, Ray.
Okay, the reason why I ask, how much N is actually needed is I could see in my mind utilizing an application of, say, 0.1 to 0.25 pounds of N for the rounds where the growth potential of the grass is at its lowest. I could see doing that because I'd be insane to suggest let's juice up cool season grass going into midsummer with a half to 3/4 of a pound of N, knowing what I know about its growth potential. On the other hand, I would want a lot more nitrogen going down in the fall versus in the early summer, late spring. So, that can be a factor, but then no matter what you do, once you start looking at applying N as a liquid primarily, you are automatically looking at one is lean, and I like to see 2.5 to 5 gallons per 1,000 square foot if I'm going to be applying any significant amount of actual nutrients. Because, by the way, the more caustic element as far as salting out the plants go is actually potassium. Potassium's even worse.
Boys. Okay, so agronomically, if you were going to do something like this is the way I would do it. Now, I don't know if this is going to work out cost-wise because I think I've run the numbers. I don't know that it works. But I would go, like Ray said, I would start in the fall of the preceding year knowing that you were going to do this. So you're kind of already behind the eight ball. But you've done a good job and you get better than 50% of your N out in those last 2 rounds in the fall. I'd come back and I'd go like a duration 90 or a polyon or something like that, even a duration 120. Throw that out in your round 2, maybe your round 3, and then go back in with just little bits of liquid to fill in the gaps.
Yeah,
I think you could make that work. There's a case to be made for doing something like that. And
100%. Yeah.
On your round 3,
Yes.
if you do it round 2, if you run it round 2, your round 3, if you're now spraying Tetrino or you're spraying Celiprin, it makes it a lot easier because now it's just glug, 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 send it.
Now, I'm not saying that'll ever happen. Like, that's like worst case. I'd rather go finance a spray truck and send it that way than run fertilizer low volume. So I just didn't know if there was, a way around it. So
it's a good question. It's a good question.
I'd go the third way in that if I ever if I ever had to deal with lawns over, say, a half acre or a quarter acre on a regular basis, I'd be running full on boom sprayers capable of throwing down the volume. Okay? I would be literally Toro Multi-Pro or SDI system sprayers.
Ray's going to scare all the children in the neighborhood. Here comes Michael with the Sprayinator 5000. the children.
I joke with Tanner all the time. I tell him we're going to buy a field crop sprayer and just open the booms up as we drive down the road and hit the whole yard in one swath and just be on to the next one.
Hit the whole neighborhood. Yeah, just unfold the booms. Yeah, unfold the booms. Everybody's front yard done. Got it.
Efficient,
got it.
You know?
I mean, yeah, and you know what you can do with those field sprayers? Please control yourself, but imagine running flood jet nozzles that are throwing down 5 gallons per minute apiece.
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do this year is transition over to spraying as many of the pesticides as you possibly can, right? So not just post-emergent weed control, but being able to spray a celeprant, being able to spray your pre-emergent, even out of your machines. And listen, thousands of acres I've sprayed out of a pre-emergent out of a permagreen with zero problem. Spring applications, fall applications, prodiamine, dimension, spectacle, you name it. It never had an issue with it. So in the event of crunch time and availability, you can go pick up your skids from Knox. And by the way, Knox is a great blender, and they have their own slow release technology where they use a vinyl coating, right? What is their slow release called? I can't.
One and done.
Yeah, that's one and done is the duration.
No. Okay. Surf coat.
No, surf coat is the one from
That's not.
Is it?
Yeah. Hey, would I lead you astray?
Oh, I'm thinking of XRT. XRT is what I was trying to think.
That's
not XCU. That's XRT. When you said surf coat, I was thinking of Pure Coat, which is from. Did DuPont do Pure Coat? Who did Pure Coat? I feel like it was a paint company that did Pure Coat. Can anybody
PPG
with Pure Coat?
PPG.
Pure Coat.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna ask Michael a couple questions here real quick. So,
okay,
it's you and your partner, and like, what's the goal? What's the goal to scale this? Is it just going to be a 2-man show forever, or how much do you think you guys can handle, like square footage wise, until it gets to be like, oh my god, I can't handle this? Just curious.
So
your thoughts on the business.
We've kicked that around quite a bit. That's been a really big topic so far this winter, is kind of where we want to go. Do we want to stay like kind of how we're doing and high-end clients and not really run the volume? Because I don't know what you guys have talked about it before. Like, you can't do both. You can't have the high end and you can't do the volume at the same time. It just doesn't make sense. But I don't know. We're gonna keep it to where him and I are maxed out. And you got to think we've got all our office work that we still have to do, phone calls, and all the bullshit that comes along with all this. So I think that we could probably comfortably get up to about 400 people before we need to start looking into a technician. Is where I think.
That's cool. Hopefully you guys get there sooner than later. And it's always fun to be on that ride and that rocket, and then you get there and you're like, oh man, okay, we've conquered the mountain. It's not too long usually before you're like, well, what's next? So that could be the pitfall, right? Is not as it's okay to be, a 3-man band, a 2-man band, or a 3-man band. I think people get lost on, hey, we got to scale up and we got to get bought out by some national company or something like that, and that's the exit strategy for everybody. So I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to see that you guys are thinking about it, taking it seriously and all that kind of stuff. That's good. What other questions do you have for us? What other thoughts or anything? What have we covered?
I don't have a lot more. I didn't really come in with a too big of a game plan. I was kind of winging it. So
hey,
same.
Yeah.
We literally sit down and go ahead.
Would be like kind of touch on some growth regulators, because we haven't used any growth regulators in our program at all.
Ooh.
Cool
Like
season grass,
Well,
a new. I think a new is the safest play. It's your longest term play. He had the greatest flexibility as far as when to start timing your applications. Yeah, that would be the only thing I would even consider. But from a lawn care perspective, I'm not a gigantic fan of it, and that's my own personal opinion.
Especially not on non-irrigated tall fescue. That you're playing kind of a risky game versus if you told me that you were in the world of real cut Kentucky bluegrass instead, then I'd be all over PGRs. I'd be all over PGRs, but then because you're dealing with a different kind of grass, the most I'd recommend is dabbling with a new in the spring to kind of, mitigate and manage your surge growth. But just know that ideally, once you get into that, I guess, June, July, August timeframe, you had better not be growth regulated for the sake of the grass.
Yeah, I mean,
That
we're
growth
not growing
regulator
much
had better
at that point anyway.
exactly. I mean, you don't have growth regulator in effect at the time of the year when your grass is at its lowest growth potential, because that just is playing with fire. And oh, I have a question for you. How bad is your brown patch and Pythium?
I was going to ask about his fungicide program if he has.
Yeah,
So
that's my yeah.
So
yeah.
as far as fungus goes, we have, again, it's kind of at the client's discretion. I mean, if you've had issues with it in the past, like, we're going to hit you with it, regardless of whether you pay me for it or not, because I'm not going to get kicked in the ass later on for having something come wipe out
Yeah.
your whole yard.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
again, this whole point of what Matt was saying about, kind of walking into our distributor and being like, oh dude, just use this like right now. So when we got into brown patch season, we started using some Headway, which
Ooh.
was not great, right? And that was before
Yuck.
it's no good. So that's kind of where we were at. I've been kicking around, like running some like potassium phosphite. That worked out pretty well. But then we didn't really have to worry about disease this year because Armyworms kind of took care of everything for us. So we didn't have a big issue.
Okay. Because what I'm going to tell you about, brown patch and Pythium is it's better to be ahead of it and applying preventatively versus applying curatively, because to me, the difference between a preventative and a curative fungicide application is, number one, what the fungicide costs, and number two, when you're applying curative, how you have to apply it. Okay? That's the factor that I think about is when applying preventatively, I could see, for example, applying something a little bit less costly at maybe a half a gallon per 1,000 square foot, crisscross the passes and just spray that lawn, versus if I'm applying curatively because I'm in trouble, I got a problem, 2 to 5 gallons per 1,000 square foot at high pressure. Okay.
So,
and also other factor too is once I get into the world of active disease and I'm seeing the lawn damaged right before my eyes, then the cheap and easy stuff that the distributor knows about is gone out the window. For example, if you told me you had brown patch and dollar spot and leaf spot running wild, I would not tell you to throw headway G in the spreader. It would be something that costs a lot more per acre.
Did you say, when you said headway G or headway
G?
liquid?
G.
Headway G.
G.
He said headway. Said headway G. That.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do headway, roll your own.
Yes.
With azoxy and propiconazole, save the money, and you'll be much happier with your results.
Okay, so 2 quick questions on this while we're talking about growth regulators, fungicides, all this stuff. Is predominantly like, are your lawns Kentucky bluegrass? Are they tall fescue? Or are they sort of a full season mix? Like, what breakdown of those 200 accounts would you say fall into those buckets?
Mostly fescue, a few zoysia here and there, Bermuda running rampant all over the damn place. That's about it. You come across your bluegrass occasionally, but we don't have too much.
Okay, then. So here's what I would say then is we had this Thirsty Thursday with Paul's Prime Cuts a while ago. Gosh, we've done a lot of these things, fellas. That's going way back. And the thing I told him relative to all these kind of 3 things combined is, number 1, I would use Primo's fine, if Anu's fine. They're both late GA inhibitor PGRs. They're both fine to use. Use that in the springtime to, like what Ray said, suppress your surge growth going through springtime, and then you got to back off. So, Paul is in a little bit warmer climate than what you are, and he's starting to back off for, mid-May. I think it'd be okay for you to go up through about Memorial Day and then back off. And part of the reason is that you're going to get a little bit of that rebound effect. So when the when the PGR wears off, it's going to create a surge in growth, right? And as long as you're not too succulent and too juiced up with water and humid air and things like that, you got to be careful. But that would be the time that I get that first fungicide app out there, not with a granular fungicide, but using it depends on the lawn. But I would say that rolling your own headway for now is fine. You just be careful with the DMIs at high rates. So I would not be above, like, say, 1 fluid ounce on that propiconazole rate going into summer.
Okay.
So all good questions, all good thoughts. I mean, definitely growing grass in St. Louis ain't fun. I mean, Southern Illinois and around there, I think, we had
turf culture.
I was going to say turf culture was on, and we told him, going into it. And, I got several messages from him, and he did great this year. That guy really hung in there and did all the right things. There were some parts of it that got a little beat up, but that's life. That's life in St. Louis, and you're not going to be able to grow grass exceedingly well without an ungodly budget and a little bit of good luck with the weather. I mean, that's just the only 2 ways about it. So, don't ever get down on yourself and maintain those expectations. I mean, there's probably a lot of lawns that you deal with that you realize that, listen, the best this is ever going to be is about a 6.5. I could do everything right, and all we're ever going to be is a 6.5 out of 10. It's okay to tell people that. I think a lot of times they have expectations of, it's going to be, this or that. It's like, pump the brakes here and let's assess where you're at. You're at a 3 right now. Matt would tell you. Matt probably had a great time saying, this is actually a -1, and I'm going to take it up to a 0.1 if you shut the fuck up and pay me. He was very big on the hard sell, but to that point, I think there's opportunities there of just being honest with folks, and again, the tough stuff that comes your way, spring growth, the fungus, all that kind of stuff. Like, some of that you just have to let happen, and that's the way it rolls. So, Matt, you're going to say something. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did you just call me the lawn boy?
What's that? No, I said I said grass janitor. Grass janitor.
This motherfucker right here. Okay. We're going to wind this up. Turfology, thank you for coming on. We wish you the best in the upcoming season. Keep us posted with how everything goes. And always, of course, feel free to reach out with any way that we can possibly help. For everybody else playing along at home, we are going to keep the show going after the show. And if you're interested in that piece of content, I do want to throw a couple trigger warnings out there for people that get real sensitive. Like in the show, after the show, we talk uninhibited. So there will be bad words that are said. We have a lot of fun. So if you're not into having fun, it's probably not for you. So if you don't like adult talk, you don't like fun, and you don't enjoy our content, the show after the show is probably not for you. But if you do enjoy our content, you don't mind a couple locker room bad words being thrown around, but we will not be grabbing anyone by the cha-cha. And you do enjoy having fun, check us out on the show after the show. The best way to go about that is to head to patreon.com/burn-and-return, or you can become a channel member here, and you'll get the link to be able to sign up at Dirty Deeds. And so what's interesting about it is that we post a link for 10 minutes and 10 minutes alone, and after that 10 minutes is up, it's gone into the atmosphere, into the ethos, never to be seen again. So you've got 10 minutes to tune in, or you don't get to tune in at all. Why, you ask?
Speaking of tuning in, what? Because what?
We so mysterious. Oh, tell us about tuning in. Tell us about tuning in.
Well, no, speaking of tuning in, next week's a big show because, listen, we have the best producer in all of YouTube. We do.
That is no doubt.
Seriously. So he has violated most of the court orders that are against him and gone all the way to the North Pole to get Santa to come on our show next week. So if you check out the chat right here on YouTube,
whoa! You skimmed over that way too fast. We need to double
Santa
down. J Pink has got fucking Santa Claus coming on Thirsty Thursday.
And you can ask him questions.
Yeah, Thirsty Thursday. Is it Thirsty Thursday or Burn and Return? Which one are we doing?
Thursday.
It'll be on Thirsty Thursday.
On Thirsty Thursday, we've got fucking Santa Claus. Sorry for the bad words. Sorry, YouTube. Coming on with the opportunity for people that are tuning in right now to ask Santa legit questions. If you're not interested in tuning in to Santa Claus, unsubscribe right now. Right now. You can go to thegrassfactor.tv/Santa and start submitting your questions right now. We'll get to them on air. All right, go ahead, DeMay. I had to, with emphasis, I had to bang on the keyboard. Can you hear me banging on the keyboard?
I can. I'm not sure that's the keyboard. All that testosterone you're taking, it could be something else down there. So, all right, gentlemen, we'll see you on the after show.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.